So, I just got to see the brand new movie that everybody seems to be freaking out about. I feel like every single theater kid I know, this is pretty much the Super Bowl for them. It's the biggest moment of the year. I got to see Wicked Part 1, the brand new movie that is an adaptation, of course, of the stage play, which was an adaptation of a book, which is a spin-off to The Wizard of Oz, which was a movie. It was adapting a book. Adaptations upon adaptations. But it's a gigantic musical that is supposed to be telling the origin story of the Wicked Witch of the West, that evil character from The Wizard of Oz who maybe isn't so evil or so wicked. Well, that's the whole point of this movie, to find out the truth of it all. And this is a movie that I'm going to be honest, I couldn't get myself excited for this for a multitude of reasons. The first reason, because it is a part 1. As somebody who's not familiar with the story of Wicked, I do know that it is a stage play that is not split into multiple parts that you have to sit and view it in multiple sittings. It is one play that you sit down and you watch the whole thing. So I was a little bit confused as to why this was a 2-part thing. I was concerned with the runtime, 2 hours and 40 minutes for a part 1. That is concerning. I myself am not the biggest fan of these sort of conventional musicals. I love musicals, but I love them when they try to do something extraordinarily unique in the genre, something like a La La Land. Something that is made specifically for film. I'm not the biggest fan of these stage adaptations into film because they're usually hit or miss. You have some that are amazing and some that just don't work at all. And I don't know, the marketing campaign, it just didn't look good to me. I just was not excited for this. I thought it was going to kind of be a nothing burger of a film, but I'm happy to say I really had a good time with this. Wicked Part 1 is a fantastic movie, and a movie that is much better than I think it had any right to be as being a Part 1 to something that probably shouldn't have been split into 2 parts. It is a film that does kind of everything you want it to do as a musical. If you're somebody going into this who loves Wicked the musical and loves musicals, you're going to get what you want out of this movie, but it also surprises people like me who maybe aren't big musical fans, aren't really familiar with Wicked at all, and just kind of want to get a decent movie that is well made and well produced and doesn't feel half-assed. And that is the one thing I could say about this movie, more so than anything, before I get into the performances and the music, is the fact that this movie was not half-assed. They could have cut corners with this movie and done what Disney probably would have done with this, which is just make sort of a generic version of this. Knowing that Wicked, no matter what was going to make you money, you don't have to put in that much effort to make sure that everything in this movie is really pristine and really well done. But Don Chu, the director here, really puts a lot of detail in every single aspect of this film, both in its visuals, in its direction, in its choreography. Everything in this movie feels really refined, and it kind of gave me Harry Potter sort of vibes, the way that the world building all comes together and the way the locations feel, and everybody's just in it, acting-wise. I really appreciated just the production of this, and I think it's going to get a lot of Oscar nods. It's probably going to win a lot of the technical stuff, and I just really, really loved that you really feel the passion and the love for Wicked in the production here. It doesn't feel half-assed by anybody in this film or behind the camera. You just can't imagine that there were any corners cut, which I appreciate. Another aspect I really loved about this film was the cast, starting off with Ariana Grande. My God, Jesus. Ariana Grande absolutely steals this movie, absolutely steals the show, and gives probably the most surprising performance of the year. A performance that I genuinely think has a very good chance of winning the Best Supporting Actress Oscar at this year's Academy Awards. She's absolutely stunning here as Glinda. She is hilarious, easily getting the biggest laughs out of the movies. She's got this whole sort of Mean Girls vibe at some points in the movies, but then she has that emotional touch to her, this sort of moral code that she actually is a decent, innocent person, and the way she's able to sort of translate that to the screen throughout the whole film, not just in the musical sequences, but both in sort of the more subtle moments, is brilliant. She can be loud and funny and vibrant, but also there are moments of quietness where you see a sort of sadness behind her, and she's so great in every single scene that she's in this movie. She's actually maybe a little too great, because she sort of outshines everybody. That's like maybe the biggest issue with the film, is Ariana Grande is so good that you just kind of forget about everything else that's going on in the movie because of how powerful and how just passionate her performance is here. She is easily the standout of this film, and the one thing you're going to walk away from this film thinking is, oh my God, Ariana Grande is incredible. Cynthia Erivo, who plays Alphaba, and of course had the whole controversy about somebody changing a poster or something. That was really weird. She's fine in here. Yet again, her performance, I see a lot of people raving about it, but I think, like I just said, she's a little bit outshined by Ariana Grande here, which maybe is a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know. I don't know if the play is designed for the second part to be more focused performance-wise on that character, but I didn't get much from her in this movie. Her character is kind of my least favorite part of the whole film, because the Wicked Witch of the West, or Alphaba in this film, is just, a very generically written character. It's this character who, of course, has this green skin, and everybody hates her, and everybody makes fun of her, and she has to be strong and get through that and become her own person. So it's kind of very predictable the direction her character is going in, and because of that, she tends to be one of the least interesting aspects of the film, in my opinion. I understand that might be controversial for people that love Wicked so much. Are gonna be like, how dare you, she's the best character in the whole thing. I don't know. Maybe it was the performance, maybe it's just the way the character's written, but I just could not be any less interested in Alphaba as a character, because you already know the direction that character's going, and you kind of get it from the beginning of the film. And my real interest was really more in Oz as a whole, the world, all of these other characters, what's going on, the world building. That is where my interest lied. But she's fine, Cynthia. You have a bunch of other great actors that show up in this film, a lot of which I didn't know were in the movie. Like, Michelle Yeoh is really interesting here. Doesn't do anything special, but I appreciate the fact that she's in the movie. Jeff Goldblum. Whose idea was it to cast Jeff Goldblum as the wizard in this thing? I mean, hilarious. There's a scene early on where they just see a statue of the wizard. It's just a giant face statue. And they're like, oh my god, he looks great. It's the wizard. And fucking Jeff Goldblum, man. The real shock for me is when this goat comes in at one point. This goat who's like a professor. And he walks into the room like, I did not kill Joffrey, but I wish that I had. Yeah, fucking Peter Dinklage as the goat? He is the GOAT, man. He is the GOAT. Just a great cast. But yet again, I just don't know if there are any real standouts in this cast outside of Ariana Grande. She is going to probably win the Oscar for this, and it's very deservingly so. Easily the best part of the whole film. The musical sequences, of course. That's what everybody comes to see. They're very, very well made, both in the choreography with the dancing. The singing is all beautiful and vibrant and amazing. Some songs are a little bit more memorable than others. Of course, you have the big ones that you know are coming that have been in all the marketing. Those songs are great. There's other songs a little more forgettable. There's a really good sequence when they go to the Emerald City that I thought was really well put together. And overall, if you're somebody who's coming to this because you want to see these big, vibrant, extravagant musical sequences, it delivers. You're going to get that. And if you're somebody who doesn't like musicals or singing, you're probably going to be sitting in the theater like... entertainment.
I don't want to sing anymore.
When it comes to the actual story of Wicked, it's kind of my main problem with Wicked, at least concept-wise, is I think the concept of Wicked in and of itself, just the base idea of, why don't we take this character who's inherently evil and explain that she's actually maybe kind of the good guy? I think it's a stupid idea. And I understand I can't blame this film for it because the people that wrote this film did not come up with the idea of Wicked. It's an adaptation, but I just think the concept is dumb. And why do I think it's dumb? Because when The Wizard of Oz came out and the Wicked Witch of the East, or the Wicked Witch of the West, whatever, North, South, who gives a shit? She's really just this generically evil comic book villain, right? If she had a mustache, she'd be twirling that son of a bitch. Like, she is just plain evil, and I don't know if the story needed for her to be a deeper character than that. The whole purpose of The Wizard of Oz, which is a movie that I love, is not really about the witch and how evil she is and how kind of complex her character is. Sometimes evil characters don't need to be super, super complex in the reasons as to why they do what they do. Sometimes they just want to watch the world burn, which is totally okay, and I know this is like the original version of let's take a bad guy and make them good. I understand that this is like a new Hollywood trend of doing that with a bunch of other characters. We are like 2 years away from Disney being like, guys, we have the greatest idea ever. What if we take this dude and explain that he's actually... He's good. He was justified with Order 66. We know it's gonna happen, because they do it with all these characters now. Like, no villain can just be a villain, except for the Penguin. Good job, Matt Reeves. You guys got it with that show, thankfully. So because of that, the Wicked concept alone, I have a hard time buying into it, just because I think the overall idea of this story is just something that I find to be pointless. Which is why, by the way, I don't even think this needs a part 2. I like the way this film wraps up. One of my biggest fears is that a part 1, part 2, whenever you usually get that, part 1 feels like a half-baked cake. You get that with a lot of movies. Sometimes they're able to pull it off, but historically, you know, Deathly Hallows Part 1, half-baked cake. Hunger Games, Mockingjay Part 1, half-baked cake. You could even argue Dune Part 1 kind of feels a little more half-baked. This, I will argue, does not feel like a half-baked meal. This feels like a full movie, in my opinion. If you had told me this was the Wicked story, and where this movie ends is the ending of Wicked, and then you just kind of, you know, fill in the gaps between the ending of this and then The Wizard of Oz, in my opinion, it works. This feels like a complete story. I don't necessarily feel like I have to see a part 2. There are some loose threads, but the threads that are left loose in between those two stories, The Wizard of Oz and Wicked Part 1, I don't feel like they're important enough to release another near 3-hour-long movie. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know what the rest of Wicked is like. You can tell me if you want. Please don't spoil it. But either way, I just feel like this movie felt complete, which I appreciated. I thought it was going to feel like half a story, since it is technically half a story. But I really, really liked where this movie left off in the third act, and I thought it was well done enough. Although, yet again, I have some issues with the story. I don't feel like it's right to judge this movie for its story, since it's an adaptation. And talking about that third act, it is brilliantly done. You know what's coming in that third act. It's been in all the marketing. That stupid song that I have stuck in my head now, and I'm gonna have stuck in my head forever. It's extremely well done. Really emotional, one of the best sequences in a musical you're gonna see. And altogether, it's just a perfect kind of explanation point on this whole film that just is so much better and so much stronger than I think it had any right to be, which I appreciate, because it's a movie that's going to be super successful. People are going to be freaking out about it, and even if this movie was a shit pile, it would have still been successful, and people would have still been freaking out about it. So I appreciate the fact that a movie that is going to get this just natural success because people are obsessed with stage plays and Wicked, I really, really appreciate that they made a good movie. Now, will part 2 be as good? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But so far, I'm really loving this. I'm digging it. I do have some problems with the story. Ariana Grande is absolutely incredible. Go check out Wicked and go watch Gladiator 2, which I'm also seeing. And we'll be reviewing tomorrow, so check that out when it's out. I will give Wicked Part 1 a 4 out of 5. I had a really good time with this movie. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe for more notifications. I'll see you in the next one.